Okay. Today, Mr. Sham will be learning. Today, Mr. Sham will be learning Daf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph. So the Gemara beforehand brought the din of that the mavui, where you have a lechi or a kaira. So you have the maximum width of the mavui should be 10 amas, and the maximum height should be 20 amas. But also the Mishnah says that if you have a tzuras HaPesach, so the Mishnah, if you have a tzuras HaPesach, then you can then it's okay even if it's more than 10 amas the width. That's in the Mishnah. The Brisa we learned if you have an amaltra, which is a fancy bit of woodwork on top of the mavui, above the kaira. So then it doesn't matter if the kaira is higher than 20 amas. So we have two heterim for one is in the Mishnah we have for if it's more than 10 amas we have the tzuras HaPesach, and also if it's above 20 amas we have the heter of amaltra, because it catches the people's attention because they look up to see the amaltra, and then they see because of that they will see the kaira. Now Ibchamai, so the Gemara is the question is an amaltra also effective if it's wider than 10 amas? Of course, it's effective for it's higher than 20 amas, but is a malcha also be effective if the mov is wider than 10 amas? That you'll be matrid with a lechi or a kaira. And similarly, also the question is if you have the tzuras HaPesach, if it's high, if the tzuras HaPesach is only for the width, or whether the tzuras HaPesach is effective also for the height. Okay, Toshma, we've learned this already. The Tanya learned in the Brisa. Movu shu gavoya me'esrim ama. If the mov is higher than esrim ama, you should minimize the height. If it has a tzuras HaPesach, you don't have to minimize the height. So therefore, it's very clear in the Brisa that if you have a tzuras HaPesach, there is no need to minimize the height. And just to point out, by the way, that every tzuras HaPesach is automatically tzuras has being two posts, and the beam above is automatically going to have a lechi there. But sometimes, for instance, if the tzuras HaPesach is too if the tzuras HaPesach is too wide, then the lechi doesn't count as a lechi. Therefore, you even though you have the lechi there, you'll still need the tzuras HaPesach if it's wider than 10 amas. It's the heter of the tzuras HaPesach which will permit you to carry. Anyway, but so we see over here that tzuras HaPesach is effective not just for the width, as is clear in the Mishnah, but it's also effective if the kaira is above the height. So then a tzuras HaPesach will make the beam on the top of the tzuras HaPesach will be kosher of a mavui, even though it's higher than 20 amas. Okay, a maltra berochvei will have to the maltra is of the width. So a maltra berochvei mai is the maltra, which is the fancy piece of woodwork above the kaira. Does that help berochvei if it's wider than 20 amas? So toshma. So the Gemara says let's have a look at the price. The Tanya learned the price. Movu shugavoy me'esrim amor. So the movu is higher than 20 amas. You make it the movu lower. Harochav me'esrim amas. And if it's wider than eser amas, the movu, then you have to also put some fencing there to make it the opening should be less than 10 amas. But in yesh the tzuras HaPesach, if he has the tzuras HaPesach, ain't it tzarich l'mayit. You don't have to minimize the size of the movi. V'im yesh le amaltra, ain't it tzarich. And this, if there is an amaltra, which is a fancy piece of woodwork above the kaira, ain't it tzarich l'mayit. You do not have to make the size of the movi smaller. So my love, assuming that all these two heterim of tzuras HaPesach and amaltra come after the sefer, so for surely, since they come after the sefer, for surely they apply to the sefer as well, to the last din, which is speaking about being wider than eser amas. Even there, the amaltra will be effective in being machsherit for a movi. So the Gemara says, loy aresha, no. Yes, true. It says the din amaltra after after he spoke about both the issues, the issue of height and the issue of width, but the Malta will only be effective to machshir the mavi for one issue, for the issue of height. It will not be effective for the machshir the mavi if the issue is because the opening is too wide. That's what it says loyaration. That's the halacha. Okay. Now we're coming. Now we're coming to another, a slightly different Indian. I mean, it's based on the same Mishnah, because the Mishnah actually said that if you, the Mishnah said that if you have a tzuras HaPesach, so there's a tzuras HaPesach, then you don't need to minimize the width of the movie. That's what the Mishnah said. Now, there is a machlokes on this, because there is another version of the Mishnah. Okay, let's hear what he wants to say. Masni Rabbi Huda was learning to Rabbi Huda was the teacher learning to Rabbi Chia, the son of Rab, and Rab was in the presence of Rab, and he said, "Ein it tzarech lamayit." He said the Mishnah, like our version of the Mishnah, that if it's you have a tzuras HaPesach, you don't need to minimize the width of the entrance to the Mavoi. Amalei Asnin, it says no. Asnin tzarech lamayit. The correct version is tzarech lamayit. That means even a tzuras HaPesach is not effective in being machshir a mavoi if the width is more than 10 amas. So a tzuras HaPesach is not able to deal because it's a different version of the Mishnah. Even as a tzuras HaPesach, tzarech lamayit, it doesn't change the fact that if it's more than 10 amas, you cannot be machshir this mavoi, and even if you have a tzuras HaPesach, you have to find some sort of fencing over that to make it less than 10 amas. Right. So what do we see over here? We see over here that, let me just say something, that what's the measure of Eser Amos? The measure of Eser Amos is that Eser Amos is a Pesach. That's an entrance. Understandably, that when you have a mechitza, in many places, at the end of the day, whenever you have a chitza, if you want to use it, there's going to have to be a Pesach somewhere. So therefore, it's a normal part of the mechitzas is to have a Pesach. So a Pesach is not really does not really negate the mechitza concept. It's a mechitza, but then certain places you'll have to have a Pesach. That's fine. Now, but then you also have what's called a pirza. So you have a Pesach. You'll have a Pesach. When you have a mechitza, you'll have a Pesach somewhere. But there's another thing. Pirza. Pirza is a break. A pirza is a break in the mechitzas. What we see from over here from Rav, the measurement of the Eser Amos. What's the measurement of Eser Amos? Eser Amos is considered the maximum size for a Pesach. So the maximum size for a Pesach is Eser Amos. Now, what is Tzuras HaPesach? So it seems that even though, according to the way we learn the Mishnah, that even if you have if you have wider than Eser Amos, so then it's already a pirza. If it's more than Eser Amos, it's not an entrance anymore. It's like a pirza. It's broken. It's so big, so large. No, but if you have a Tzuras HaPesach, that is koveya, that authenticates that it is a Pesach. Mitzad the width, the emes, it's so wide, so much, it's so broken that it's really not Pesach anymore. It's not actually a Pesach. But the fact that you've actually made it 2 posts and a beam on top, so you made the Tzuras HaPesach. So then it shows that even though it's larger than the regular Pesach, it shows nevertheless it's a Pesach. Okay, so it has a bit of a Pesach. But Rav disagrees with that. Rav says that the maximum size of a Pesach is 10. That means that if it's more than 10, it's a pirza. And now Rav says that cannot be transformed by a Tzuras HaPesach. The regular version is, yes, Tzuras HaPesach can transform a pirza into a Pesach. But Rav, he says that Tzuras HaPesach cannot transform the pirza into Pesach. That's why if it's more than 10 amas, the Tzuras Pesach is not going to be effective. It cannot transform a pirza into a Tzuras Pesach. Now, obviously, not all pirzas are the same. There's different types of pirzas, can be different situations, and not all have the same dinim. What the Gemara is going to do over here is the Gemara is going to say, look, we see from Rav this principle that for a pirza, a tzuras HaPesach does not have the ability to transform it into a Pesach. So therefore, we'll learn out for other dinim as well that a tzuras HaPesach, if they're called a pirza for whatever reason, the tzuras HaPesach cannot transform it. Let's do it inside. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Rabbeinu, Nilman, we learn from the Rav, Chotzer Sheruba Psochim. This is a Chotzer, right? We're not talking about a Mavui right now. Now we've Chotzer Sheruba Psochim v'Chalonis. Now it has it has a lot of it is the majority of it. The majority of it. The Chotzer is the majority of it. Is Psochim v'Chalonis. You have breaks which are So Ein Niteres B'Tzuras HaPesach. So if the majority is psachim, now the major part of the fencing of all four sides, not of one side, of all four sides. So the major fencing on all four sides is the majority of it is psachim and chaloinas. So then what is it? We go into the klal of parutz meruba ala oimei. So it's if the majority of it is psachim v'chalonis, so it's more open than closed and fenced. Parutz meruba ala oimei is a pirza. Since parutz meruba ala oimei is a pirza, it means a break. It's considered a break. Therefore, tzuras HaPesach doesn't help. Anything which is considered the Pesach, tzuras HaPesach doesn't help. So let me say it sits inside my timer. Hoil v'yoser me'aser oiser b'mavui. There's more than 10 amas asas b'mavui. Why? Because it's considered a pirza. Parutz meruba ala oimei is also oiser b'mavui. If you have the oimei meruba ala parutz, then the chotzer, if there's breaks, but the oimei is meruba ala parutz, it's not considered a pirza. Then it's kosher. But if parutz meruba ala oimei, the majority is parutz, then it's considered a pirza. It's a pirza, and it's not considered a fence. It's considered the fence is broken. If it's considered the fence is broken, ma yosem me'eser ha'osem b'mavui, just like yosem me'eser, which is a pirza, eidin niteres. The tzuras HaPesach cannot be, you cannot transform it and be matter the carrying that. With the tzuras HaPesach, parutz meruba ala oimei, if you have another reason why it's considered a pirza, tackle the small pirzas, maybe 1 amas, 2 amas, whatever it is, the small pirzas. At the end of the day, it's parutz meruba ala oimei. There's more a broken understanding, which therefore, because it's parutz meruba ala oimei, it's considered a pirza. Is ha'iseh b'chotz, the parutz meruba ala oimei. Einit the tzuras HaPesach. The tzuras HaPesach does not have the ability to transform a pirza into a cannot transform a pirza into a Pesach. Yes, of course, and tzuras HaPesach is certainly an improved form of Pesach. You can have a Pesach without the tzuras HaPesach. You can have a Pesach with a tzuras HaPesach. And tzuras HaPesach is an informed, is a improved form of a Pesach, and therefore sometimes you won't be mature unless you will have a tzuras HaPesach because it's an improved form of a Pesach. There's no argument about it that tzuras HaPesach is an improved form of type of Pesach, and sometimes just a plain simple Pesach we will have to answer anyway sometimes. But you can't transform a pirza into a Pesach. That is from the words of Rabbi. Okay, now we're going to ask that maybe there's no raya. I think I was going to ask. That was the sort of Kal V'chomer style learning, the limud which we did just now. So Gemara says, but you can't compare it really, because because not all pirzas are the same. We see the Chachamim, but some pirzas are machmir, some pirzas are make. He says, is a very strict type of pirza. That's why maybe tzuras HaPesach can't transform. Because Yosem Eser is a strict type of pirza. Why? Where do you see that? If you have, we spoke about it the other day, that in Shleim, whatever, in order to drink from the well, and in order because the well is a deep 10 tefachim, so therefore it's a reshus hayachid to carry out, take the water, draw the water from the well, and put it by the side. So you take it from reshus hayachid and you put it on the reshus harabim. So therefore, what they would do is they made four corners. On the four corners, they made planks. So they made 4 L-shaped planks on the 4 corners, and that was considered mechitzas. Then the animals would be able to walk in within those within the space between the corners, the corner beams, or not beams, the corner planks, between the corner planks, and we'll be able to walk in and drink there with from the well, which was water which was drawn for them from the well. So so this pasipirois, so we get the size of pasipirois is the gap between the planks is the maximum is 13 1/3 amas, I think. Yeah. Now that is Rabbi Huda. But Meir, he says no, the maximum size is 10 tefachim, because if it's more than 10 tefachim, it's not a pesach. You want to make it so it's open from all sides, and you have there's 4 sides open because you have planks at the corners, like I said, and you can enter from all 4 sides. But according to Reb Meir, he says you cannot have a pesach. If you wanted to, the point is it's considered the mechitz. Therefore, the whole area is considered the reshus inside the planks. But you cannot, because if it's according to Reb Meir, if it's more than 10 amas the gap, you cannot. If it's more than 10 amas the gap, you cannot make it. It's not mechitza. If it's not mechitza, it won't be a reshus. The kids are going. So you see that the din of the Eser Amas, that once it's more than Eser Amas, it loses the thing of Pesach, is a very strict one. Ein Chanami Rebbe Huda doesn't care about Pasibiros, but Rameh does care about it. And he says that even by Pasibiros you cannot be matri. So therefore, that Yoisem Eser is a much stricter type of pirza, if I can use that terminology. It's a type of pirza than it's a very strict type of pirza, because even when it comes to where you make by pasamirois, when you make by pasamirois, we're not making on that crop, according to Meir. Whereas the cloud is considered the pirza, that if there's more open than closed, was considered pirza. Now with the pasamirois, it was all open, right? We only had the L shapes in the corners. And so therefore, the Chachamim were makel on Paretz Merubah. So you see that the concept of the Pirza by Paretz Merubah is not as strict as Eser. It's a toina by Paretz Merubah. So therefore, this chisaron of Paretz Merubah, even though it's considered the pirza, when you get to a chotzer, and you can't carry the chotzer if it's part of the rubel ha'imid, but you can't tap, you a matter, it's a possible with the rehakel, that everybody agrees by possible you had part of the rubel ha'imid, and you a matter. So therefore, fact that the Pesach is not effective for Yoisem Eser is no proof that it's not effective for Paretz Merubah al ha'imid. So that was a question on the Kalvachemer, or they wanted to, or Rabbi Yosef wanted to equate the parts from Rabbi Emet to to Eser Amas, and to say that according to Rav, Tzuras HaPesach will not be effective even by parts from Rabbi Emet. Okay, so what did Rabbi Yosef want to say? He wanted to say that by parts from Rabbi Emet, according to Rav, it will not be effective. Tzuras HaPesach will not be effective. So the Gemara says, Leima Messiah, let's bring it right, Rabbi. The price of Tfanis Halalu, these walls, Sherubam Psochim B'chaleines. So those walls, which are the majority, is Psochim, windows and doors and entrances. And is mutter. So you're allowed to carry those walls, even though the majority of it is entrances, you're allowed to carry. But one thing, make sure that there's more standing than broken open. So the Gemara just questions the language in the price of something wrong with the language. That the majority is entrances. It doesn't fit in because it says it has to be oimid merubah laparot. Make sure that it's oimid merubah laparot. So how can it be the majority's entrances? If the majority's entrances, it's never going to be oimid merubah al haparos, that to make it kosher. So we have to change a bit the wording here. Okay, there's a lot. It's not right. It's a lot. So what do we say? Okay, so now we know what the Bryce is. The Bryce says if there's many doors and windows there, so that okay. But one thing we have to make sure. Now it's talking about doors. It's psachim, so it's talking about psachim chalin is proper doors. That's what it's talking about. So those walls, and it's talking about proper doors. So they have a tzuras hapes. These are walls which have in it a door. So it's talking about the tzuras hapes. So see that over here that even if you have a tzuras hapesach, if the rubai is porous, it will not be effective. It has to be oimed meruba ala porous. So it's exactly like Rabbi Yosef is saying according to the shitta of Rab. So Rav Kana says no. It's not a raya, even though we said before that it's talking about psachim. So it's saying walls with psachim. So there is a whole wall there, and there's a pesach in the wall. So it has a tzuras pesach. So it says now because it's talking about that there's no tzuras pesach. Why is there no tzuras pesach? By pischi, when it says pischi, it means pischi shimoy. It's a bad psachim. What bad psachim? Okay, so pligibas. So it's bad psachim which do not have a tzuras pesach. It's a type of psachim which do not have a tzuras pesach. What is this bad psachim which do not have a tzuras pesach? So Chad Omar once says the less bahush shkofi. It doesn't have a mashkef. Mashkef is the post. It doesn't have a mashkef. It doesn't have a post. How can you have walls which don't have a post? To the end of the wall is always going to be a post. So Rashi explains that it doesn't have the post, and therefore the brickwork is sort of one brick in, one brick out, one brick in, one brick out. So you have posts. Okay, if you have brickwork, you don't even need a post. You can just the brickwork you put in. Brickwork is done, built by having one in and one out. And if it comes to an ending, like by an entrance, what you do is you put in a half a brick. So therefore you have a smooth ending. So that's like the mashkei. It doesn't have to nail on a special wooden mashkei. This from the stone itself is a mashkei. You have a smooth ending. That becomes that means there's no smooth ending. Certainly there's no wooden piece of wood, that's for sure. But the brickwork is like in the middle of the brickwork. There's no mashkei, but there's no smooth ending of the brickwork. So that's one. So that's really not tzuras pesach because there's no straight line of bricks or whatever it is to be a mashkei. The Chadoma once it less tikra. There's no arch on top. The arch on top is not there. So there's nothing on top. So again, the kitzur hadvar, right? So therefore, there's no raya. We did not find a raya to replace. Okay, fine. We tried to bring a raya to replace it, but then we didn't find a raya to replace it. And we had a kasha in Skavachema, and we also didn't find a raya. Okay, says the Gemara. So what do we have right now? We had the din of Rav. What was the din of Rav? Rav, he said that Tzuras HaPesach it's a different version than our version of the Mishnah. But he said that Tzuras HaPesach, it does not, if it's more than Eser, Tzuras HaPesach will not be able to machshir such a movui, even if you have a Tzuras HaPesach, which is against our version of the Mishnah. But so the Gemara says, but after Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi Yochanan also holds like Rav. Okay, where does Rabbi Yochanan say that? So we have to find where is Rabbi Yochanan say that shita that more than Eser Tzuras HaPesach will not be affected. The Omer Rovim Barav the Omer Bitzot Ma'aseh the Mechad Nibikas Beis Chersa, and this that's the name of the place, but this person was there. So what did the person do? He was in a bika, which is fields, carmels. Yeah. So Shenad's Dalet Kundesin, he put in. So he has this is a bika. It has a field there. You have things planted there, and he had some trees, and he had also some things growing, wheat and all that type of stuff. Yeah. So what did he do? He now the din is so you have to watch out by climb in the field when you have the trees, the grape trees, and the kids you have to watch out for climb. Now the din by climb is that if you have a mechitza, because the main point of climb is they shouldn't grow mixed. It shouldn't look like it's mixed. That is the main nekuda of kilayim, which makes it also if it looks like it's mixed. Now, so if you have a mechitza between the field of where wheat is growing and the field where you have your grapes growing and so on. So if you have mechitza, then that does not constitute climb, even though there's very little distance. Each one is growing straight next to the wall. If you have a mechitza in the middle, that is kosher. So what did he do? So he made the mechitza. He made a square where the square should be different than the rest of the bika around it. So wherever he had, say, wheat all around, so in the middle he can plant the vine tree or whatever. He made a square which should be different than the rest of the bika which is around. So okay, so he had this field. He made 4 pillars, beams, whatever. He put in poles. Okay, he put in 4 poles on 4 corners of the field, and then what he did was he took, I guess, I wonder whose it is my phone or whatever. I don't know. So he took probably from the vine trees. He took one of these branches, which is very flexible, from the vine trees, and they're very stringy. I've never seen one in real life, but for the pictures, it seems to me. Anyway, so so takes the branch of the vine trees and he stretches it over from one post to the other post. So he had like a piece of string, a piece of a branch going from one post to the other post, and that's what we did for all the 4 posts. And so he came to Chacham and asked him if that's Beseder. Now I made a mechitza. Technically, I made a mechitza. You can see through it, but no, but mechitza is. So is that good enough to be matter climb? He didn't climb, and the Chacham said, yeah, it's okay. You can, it's kosher for climb, and therefore you consider the mechitza, and when you grow on both sides of the fence will not affect each other. Okay, now. But Shloki says, I don't know. It must be. Is it from mine? This noise is from mine. Maybe not. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just like this is a mechitza which is effective for Klayim, this is a mechitza effective for Shabbos as well. Rabbi Yechon Omer. So according to Shlokish, this is a good mechitza for Shabbos. Rabbi Yechon says the Kloyim yitirulei, the Inya Shabbos lo yitirulei. So this is the true. Sorry, I did not explain. This is the Tzuras HaPesach. We have the posts, the post, and then you have a piece of a thing on top, and that is a Tzuras HaPesach. Yeah, so you have your Tzuras HaPesach there. So okay. So Rabbi Yechon, so Shloki says, it's very good. Even for Shabbos, it's not good for Shabbos. Right now we're going to get a bit of discussion. Did he put this zmeira, this branch of the this branch of the did he put it on top of the post, or he nailed it into the sides of the post? Did he nail it in on top? Then it's said, and the question, and right. So Hachmaskin, so it says this. Maybe he didn't knock it in the sides of the. He knocked it into the side of the posts. He didn't knock it in on top, mamish on top of the posts. So that can't be. Why? For Amar Rav Chizda, Tzuras HaPesach also be not tzad, also okay. Rav Chizda says the Tzuras HaPesach, which you don't put it, you have to be the piece of wood has to be, the beam has to be on top of the post. If it's not, it's on the side, then it's not a Tzuras HaPesach. We will see later if that applies to everything or not. But that's what the statement. Tzuras HaPesach also be not tzad, also Ella al Gaba. So it must be they put it on top. So let's see. So he put the beam on top. Now, how can Rabbi Yochanan say that that's not called the Tzuras HaPesach? What's going on over here? How can he say it's not called the Tzuras HaPesach? That's the Tzuras HaPesach. You take 2 posts, you put a beam on, that's the Tzuras HaPesach. How does Rabbi Yochanan say it's not good for Shabbos? If the opening was Eser, is he all of a sudden? It's a mission. The mission says Tzuras HaPesach. Oh, I can't say again Tzuras HaPesach. So it must be that the posts and the things were more than 10 amas. There's more than 10 hours. So Rabbi Yochanan says for Shabbos it's not good. So it's a Pesach, everything is nice, but it's not. It's more for Shabbos. It's not going to be good enough because it's more than Eser, and more than Eser, Tzuras HaPesach does not help. So Rabbi Yochanan holds that crap. Now we found Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. So the Gemara says, Lo Inanan, Lo Olam, the Eser. It's talking about the Eser. It's not more than Eser. It's not talking about more than Eser. So what is the problem? How? If it's not more than Eser, how did Rabbi Yochanan say it's possible for Shabbat? Because we minatzad. It was not on top. It was not on top. And therefore, and this whole din of Rabbi Chizda, that Rabbi Chizda says that on the side is no good, is only benegeya to Shabbos. So Rabbi Chizda, when he said that minatzad is no good, it's not negeya to Kloim. For Kloim it's good minatzad, but for Shabbos it's no good. That was Rabbi Chizda's din, if it's minatzad. And therefore, so according to Rabbi Chizda, since it was minatzad, it's taka no good. And Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Chizda. It's not when we're talking about the problem which was here was not was even Eser. Even Eser wouldn't be good. It's not sharp, more Eser, less than Eser. No. The Eser that's not the issue here. The issue here is that it was not on top. And according to Rav Chizda, b'negei to Shabbos, it must be on top. And the Irish Schtroks, how come I said it's kosher? The Schtroks doesn't agree with Rav Chizda. Rabbi Yochanan agrees with Chizda, and Rav Schtroks doesn't. Yeah. Okay. That's it. The Rav Chizda can be food. Maybe I should stretch a bit more. I think tomorrow we have a long piece. Maybe I should stretch another few minutes to shorten for tomorrow. Let's see if we can do that. Now the Gemara says, 1 second. How can you? So what do we think? So we now decided that the psul is not because of it's more than Eser. The psul is because on the side. The Gemara says, 1 second. If you're trying to tell me that it was on the side, that's what it's talking about, and the psul is because on the side. I'm going to ask you a stira. If you say that, I'm going to ask you a question. A stira, Rabbi Yochanan against Rabbi Yochanan, and against Schtroks. Right. The Schtroks, the Omer Shlokish. Listen to this. The Shlokish said, "Mishum Rabbi Yochanan bar Chanina." What is Shlokish? Another man. Pay. This means this. When you put the branch over the post, it's called it pay. So this pay. So when you cover this thing, with this branch, you cover this muteres le'inyan koloim avoy Shabbos. All of a sudden, the Shlokish is becoming machmi. Remember before he said it's good for koloim and not for Shabbos. Now in this member, the Shlokish all become some stricter. So there is another member. One member, Shlokish, was lenient. Says it's good for Kloim, for Shabbos. And there's another member, he says, for Kloim it's good. This having this branch from post to post. But not for Shabbos. Rabbi Yochanan, he says, Rabbi Yochanan, he's even more strict than before. He says, it's totally useless. He says, what? To have the posts and the stick on top, useless, garnished. Shabbos, not for Shabbos, not for Kloim, Tzuras HaPesach, nothing. Okay. Now, this is this is totally contradictory. Each one they've upgraded their strictness. And Rabbi Yochanan is Bechlal, he says, there's no Tzuras HaPesach, what's going on? Bish, Shlokish, Likash. No, Shlokish is such a good question. Why? The emes of Shlokish is make. Here he's saying the name of Chanina, so it's mach. It's not a Shlokish. It's not a Shlokish's opinion. Like Kasha, how did they hold the Rabbi? So this memory, he was saying from his Rebbe. Okay, he himself personally was even more lenient than his teacher. Say, but Rabbi Yochanan, how come Rabbi Yochanan? Here it says it's good Kasha. It says it's good for Kloim. It's not good for Kloim. This type of Tzuras HaPesach. Oh, if you'll say that there were two scenarios. This scenario is where Rabbi Yochanan is more strict. It's talking about outside. The strict scenario is when you put it on the side. So when it's put on the side, so Rabbi Yochanan says even for Kloim it's useless. It's not even useless. It's not. Because Rabbi Yochanan says if you put the stick on the side, not on top, garnished. Not for Shabbos, not for Kloim. When you put it on the top, so then he says it's good for what's it called, and not for Shabbos. So it must be that's the only way to to explain it. That's a different scenario. The two cases of Rabbi Yochanan and the two machlokes, and they're talking about different scenarios. So you can't say it's talking about the same scenario. You must be talking about a different scenario. So if we're talking about a different scenario, so how come if it's like on top, like we said, so how come Rabbi Yochanan was mated? It must be, so how come Rabbi Yochanan was asin? If it's on top, it's a Tzuras HaPesach. If you put it on top, it's a Tzuras HaPesach. How come Rabbi Yochanan says asin? So it must be that the reason is because it's more of an Eser. And Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rab. The Gemara says, no, right. The Olam Idim Idim and Atzad. That both the scenario, both Machlokes and Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish, both where they're more lenient and the scenarios where they're more strict, they're both talking about that he made them an atzad. Yeah. So that even min atzad, even when you make an atzad, sorry, not even, only when you make an atzad. When you make him an atzad, there's a difference in eser and yosim. So what's this? So we're saying like this. The be'emes, it says everything's min atzad. There's no raya. If it's on top, then of course we don't care eser, not eser. It's all. But if it's min hatzad, if you put the bin hatzad, so then there could be two scenarios, and that is the machlokes of Rabbi Yochanan. If it's min hatzad, Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Chisda. That it's one second. Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Chisda. Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rav Chisda that min hatzad is useless. But the only thing is that in the one scenario he says it's kosher for kloyim, and one scenario he says it's not even kosher for kloyim. For Shabbos, and maladaber it's useless. Minatzad is useless for Shabbos. So that's why Rabbi Yochanan always mach for Shabbos. It's not both cases Shabbos. But by kloyim, if it's but both are talking about natzad. If it's al gabav, then we don't care about it. It's good. But it's not sad, so then it's for Shabbos it's useless according to Rabbi Yochanan. The only thing which it could be good is for Kloyim. Like even by Kloyim, there's a difference in Eser and Yosem Eser. There's Hosan Be'eser or Yosem Eser. We're not we're not taming the Shonim ben Eser or Yosem Eser. Where do you get this from? Especially we're saying Bechlal that he doesn't hold the Chiluk in Eser Yosem Eser. Only b'natzad by kloyim, there's a difference in eser and yosim eser. Where do you get this from? So what's this market? Rabbi Yochanan Shlokish loy kach haya ma'aseh. This was not the story like this. He's not saying this. It was a story. Yeah, what was the story? The story was so. This is Rabbi Yochanan telling the story. Shahalach Rabbi Shua etz Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Shua was a big Talmid Chacham. Nevertheless, we went to Rabbi Yochanan to learn Torah. Even though Rabbi Shua knew Hilchos Kohen, but he still wanted to hear more, and he went to Rabbi Yochanan and wanted to Sheyeshev in Ilonis, and he saw him sitting between trees. And there was a branch going from one tree to another tree. For Amalei, so Rabbi Shua said to Rabbi Yochanan, if this would be, you have this like Tzuras HaPesach tree and a Zmayra from one tree to another tree. Would it be okay to make for Kloim? Would be considered the Mechitza for Kloim? Mal Israel can we'd be able to have a tree, a Geffen tree in here with around it having the wheat and all that. Amalei, so what did he answer him? He said Be'eser, Mutar Be'yesa Be'eser Osma. So he told him, so Rabbi Yochanan answered him that it depends. If it's Eser, that's okay to Tzuras HaPesach. If it's Eser, it wouldn't be a Tzuras HaPesach. So it's a Shaila b'negei to Kloim. Now, by my asking, what we're talking about, Ilam Gabon, if it's talking about that the tree was on top, if the branch was on top of the trees, whatever. So then, but Yosem Eser also, more Eser also is not true. But by Kalayim we see the Kalayim even Yosem Eser is okay because it says that we learned the Bryce Hoyasham, Kanin Hadoikrim pointed the bamboo sticks, whatever you call them. Yeah, of Oslam Peah Milmaila, and it made a Peah thing Milmaila stretched over something Milmaila like to see this piece of a branch. I feel it be Yosem Eser with the Kitzer. It's very clear that by Kalayim, if you have a Tzuras HaPesach, even more than Eser. And allows it must be that what the Shaila was Minatzad. The Kamalei Eser Mutar Yosem Eser also Shmamin. So you see that Minatzad, which is a weaker type of Tzuras HaPesach, and even according to Rabbi it's effective when it gets to Shabbos, but when it gets to Kloim, it will be effective, but even then it will be effective. It's only going to be effective for Eser and not by Yeser Min Eser.